Let's start at the beginning. A very good place to start. When you read, you begin with ABC. And when you drive the coast highways, you begin, well, as close to Mexico as you can get before you need a passport. And that's Borderfield State Park, near Imperial Beach and San Ysidro, California, near the southern terminus of the first road claiming the title of being a coast highway, Interstate 5. "171 years before our road trip, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo set the U.S.-Mexico border and ended the Mexican-American War. 525,000 square miles were added to the United States, right around two-thirds as much as the U.S. picked up with the Louisiana Purchase. It's a decent chunk of real estate, which turned out to be a great win for the U.S. Of course, it was land which you could argue wasn't really Mexico's or Spain's to begin with, but we'll get to that later. Since 2016, the southern border has been getting a bit of attention in the national news. 2018 saw news of migrant caravans and alleged humanitarian crises, and the government shutdown over it all. That gave Ranger Mom the free time to do this trip in the first place. In general, the US-Mexico border has changed a lot since 9/11. Once upon a time, a US college student could duck down to Tijuana for an evening of well-mannered frivolity. All you needed was a driver's license or state-issued ID to get across and back into the US if you were doing day trips into Mexico or Canada. But that wasn't to last. The Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative meant that starting in 2007, you needed a U.S. passport to enter or depart the U.S. by air. And after 2009, even just walking across the border to hit a bar or film a YouTube video required a passport. When these rules went into place, that meant that 73% of U.S. citizens who didn't have a passport were stuck in America. Almost twice as many people got passports since then, but still, 58% of Americans don't have a currently valid passport, including, as of when we started the Coast Highways trip, us. I mean, what do you want from us? We moved to Colorado before all these rules went into place, and we hadn't finished all the cool stuff we wanted to see in America first. But we are completionists. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. If we were going to do the entire Pacific Coast Highways, we were going to do the entire U.S. Pacific Coast Highways, border to border, wall to wall. Surely, it would be no problem to go to the border, take a few pictures, a bit of video, see what the fuss about the wall was about, and then turn around and head north. We owed it to you, the viewers, and to ourselves. After all, it's literally a walk on the beach in San Diego. It's always sunny in San Diego, right? We're all about seeing new and interesting public lands and their ecosystems. It'll be awesome. The southern border along the beach and mesas has changed a bit over the years. From the pyramid monument marking the border placed shortly after the treaty, to makeshift fences, became wrought iron, became fortified, extended into the sea, got additional layers, and all kinds of interesting cameras and sensors and security gadgets. If you have a tall metal fence, razor wire, 2 rows of barbed wires, security cameras, a second layer of chain link fences, and restricted area signage, do you really need the stop sign? 'cause this stop sign means it. And lest you consider approaching the border, even from the north, those cameras are indeed being watched. Another couple walked a bit closer than we did, and a Border Patrol SUV zipped down the hill with sirens whooping to keep them some unlabeled distance from the fence. There is a section of the border where you can approach the fence, under the watchful eye of Border Patrol, of course, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, with valid ID, 10 now people at a time, and you can only stay 30 minutes after hiking about 2 miles on trails that at the time we were there were closed due to storms and no indication when or if they would be repaired. Oh, and no photos or videos allowed, and absolutely nothing can be passed between the bars, even if you could fit it. The rules on the Mexico side of that border park? We grew up in Ventura County, California, home of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. There, on the lawn of the museum, is a section of the Berlin Wall. On one side is happy spray-painted butterflies and flowers and messages of peace. On the other, it's blank, because it was where the guards and mines and wire were. One was the side of freedom, where people could walk up to the fence and place flags and signs, and people felt comfortable playing along the wall. The other wasn't. It's too simplistic an analogy, of course. There's other issues in play on the US-Mexico border compared to West Berlin. But as we turned and officially started our month-long trek north, it was something to think about as we sat in the truck for a moment, ate our lunch, and thought about those simple, distracting things that keep almost everyone from thinking on these issues too long, before heading north into San Diego. Next exit on the Regenerative road trip along the Pacific Coast Highways, Cabrillo National Monument, where we celebrate when the Spanish did control Alta California. Because irony. That's next, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and visit regenroadtrip.com to read about what the kids had to say about this part of their trip in their travel blog, and help us fuel up the RV for the next trip by supporting us on patreon.com/regenroadtrip. Thanks to our supporters and sponsors who are listed in the description below.